Good afternoon from the Keller Minimal Windows booth by Munich. With me, John Weber and Matt Hawk from Craftsman Glazing. Sorry, guys, Vancouver in Canada.
That's right.
Why don't you tell us first what you guys do, and then I'll show you around the Keller booth.
Sounds good.
We have been marketing the Keller product since 2012, and we have done about 100 projects and 1,000 Keller systems, and we are very excited about all the new developments at Keller, and we're happy to share it with you here today.
So Matt, why don't you explain what Craftsman does except Keller, because you do more than just Keller.
We do more than just Keller, that's right. We are a high-end full-service glazing contractor specializing in architectural homes in the British Columbia area.
Which makes it a perfect fit for what we do.
Absolutely.
Let's have a small stroll. We have integrated LEDs on the outer mullions, which is, I think, a nice gadget or an add-on. Imagine that, and imagine that people in Canada as well, when the sun's out, they enjoy the outdoor life, big porch, big terraces, whatever. You can have nice indirect lighting, and you know what? These can be flashy colors as well.
Any color you want.
Yeah, well, yeah, pretty much. Guys, let's go in. We're gonna walk through our Pivot design door based on the Keller Minimal Window 4 Plus profiles. This case, a Pivot 4 meters high. The 4 Plus profiles, of course, you guys know it because you've been doing 4 Plus all the time. The difference is that this is, of course, not a sliding window. This is a Pivot door. But we have used the same bottom and top profile, but we have integrated a magnetic sealer, which means that when this door would be closed, the strips that you see here, they come up. At the top, they come down. They seal off perfectly, so these doors are air and watertight. Now let's continue with the standard minimal window 4 Plus sliders, the ones you know as well. But again here, LEDs in the freeway. Care to explain what the freeway is?
The freeway is a completely flush sill threshold that allows complete barrier-free access inside and outside of your space. That just allows a free flow.
We do this up to, that 4.5 meters high.
Right.
We can go up to 6 meters, wind loads and stuff. But what is new for you guys as well? Oh, maybe we should mention that as well. What we call guard line fall prevention. In case you would be installing these on the second, third floor, prevents people from falling out.
Now that's completely integrated within the 4 Plus system, correct? Not added on to...
No, actually, well, what you see is added on.
Yeah.
The system itself is integrated because there is, of course, don't know what you would call them in English, but there is very specific
blocks,
accessories that go from this profile into the minimal window profile in the bottom to provide the stability, and then it just depends on the kind of glass that you use.
Okay. Very high loading.
On the 4 Plus, we have 2 different types of junction profiles or thicknesses, 26 and 32. In this case, we have here the wider one to provide stability because we have integrated a Pivot door, glass, 4 meters high. So you get outside to that terrace to enjoy these LED lights. Difference being that the profile on this one, the junction profile, matches the junction profile in the Highline profiles, which means that you can actually have this as a slider.
Yes. And you have the continuous integrated pull in the door right there.
Matt, your impression so far?
So far, so good.
So far, so good. Well, before I had our colleague Stefan Goebel, and he went like, in the States, we like it bigger and better.
Yeah.
Well, this is bigger and better. NGS, next generation sliders. Next generation sliders. Quick, before we go into all the details, we all of a sudden decided to go back to one sliding rail instead of a double. We integrate the sliding rail, stainless steel, into the isolator bar. And we have been able to design it that way that you don't see any profiles anymore. This is flush to the floor, flush to the wall, flush in the ceiling.
I'd like to point out just how clean the jam details are.
It's
Completely
flush.
flush,
It's fully flush.
100% vision.
This gives you 98% transparency. 98. The thing is that we've seen before the standard hand levers that we use, the profiles to open up. We want this to be flush, so we don't have it on here. One might argue, why don't you put it on this one, which is possible, but that would ruin this beautiful line. So what our friends in the engineering department came up with is a soft open close system. To open, one push at the button, sliding door comes out of the wall cavity, double sequence, about 10 centimeters, and now you can actually slide it manually. For the closing, the same. It reaches this point, there's a small clack, but now I have to keep pushing this button to get full closure. That's safety reason.
Right.
You definitely want to avoid someone's hands, feet getting in here. So you push and you keep pushing until it's completely closed. Just to point you out, this is the S4, so 44 millimeters of glass.
Okay.
What you will notice right away as well is that this is actually a pretty big threshold. And that we don't have brushes anymore. We are using gaskets. The combination of the gaskets and the valves that we use for the drainage give us a resistance to driving rain and wind up to 600 Pascal.
And those are both upgrades or improvements
Those
over
are
the 4
serious
Plus
upgrades
system.
because, to be very honest, even with the existing 4 Plus system, we had very good values. But I think that 600 Pascal in a minimalistic system, or even in a sliding system, that's
Amazing.
serious.
Very
That's
impressive.
amazingly good. Now, this is the same setup as the other one, but hand operated. So here I can actually get my hand behind the mullion. The lever that you know locks in the bottom and the top. Slide it open. And why don't you try for yourself? But this is actually 480 kilos. And it still slides pretty smoothly, I would say.
Absolutely. And
Yep.
it's much quieter than the 4 Plus system.
They are very
with
quiet.
the change to the gaskets rather than the brushes.
Almost
Gaskets
silent.
the gaskets at, plus that, all the black that you see, that's actually covers. But we can see that in more detail afterwards.
Okay.
Now, big man, close that window again because I want to show you guys something else. I do guess that you have mosquitoes as well.
We do.
We do.
Sometimes. Well, now we have a integrated insect screen. 4 meters up, 1 meter wide.
And no visible fastenings anywhere in the jams. Are completely seamless.
And if you close the window,
That's locked.
the insect screen
Oh, cool.
It's
I didn't even
completely-
realize it
Oh,
did
wow.
that.
hidden again. Right now we go up to 4 meters. We continue developing, and we are hopeful that by the end of 2025 we'll be able to do this up to 6 meters, because people who want to have 6 meter high sliders, they also want to have the matching insect screens. Now we have that flush, no aluminum visible,
Right.
98% transparency, but the big threshold. I'm going to show you two things now. Top sliders on a telescopic drive, that's one. So to open, and we're flush here as well, to open, push the button, again, deadman operated, but the sliders move at the same time. gives you a different opening sequence. Also here, there is no aluminum profiles. This is stepped glass that goes from the bottom all the way up to the top. Now at the top you actually see the top slider, so you can actually now see the engine drive and pulley of slider 1 in track 1, and the same for track 2. Now what I like to point out is that this is a very slim gap. It's still S4, so it's still 44 millimeters glass thickness.
Right.
But we've been able to reduce the gap and the distance between the floor and the bottom of the track is 9 millimeters, which is less, if I'm not mistaken, than half an inch.
Yes.
Which makes this suitable and applicable for, I guess there's a norm in the United States.
ADA.
Yeah.
So we comply. Here we have 2 sliders in a fixed window, but you actually only see the track of the first slider, or first and second, and again, as in the floor system, the cladding continues.
Right, you've got a section of finished floor between the 2 tracks right there.
Which is actually the floor solution that we had in the past. So here we a little bit, you know, they always used to claim that we want to make sure that the sliding mechanism is not inside the system itself to prevent dirt and blocking.
Right.
We had to solve the issue that we still want to have a very slim gap.
Right.
And still provide the smoothness of operation. But we'll see that in more details once we get into that beautiful golden cube.
Sounds
Any
good.
questions so far, guys?
None from me.
I just want to notice how quiet the motorization and operation of the doors are. It's a bit loud in here, but it's very silent. I can barely tell it's even operating.
What I forgot to mention, we do this 6 meters high, 18 square meters.
That's
sliding, 1.5 ton glass per sash.
so that's
And the engines take 2.5 tons.
20 feet tall, 190 square feet sliding panels, and 3,300 pound single sliding leaves.
You made it sound less sexy, but more impressive. I have to admit that. It's less sexy, but damn impressive. Now let's get into this.
That math was on the fly.
Show you some design solutions. The levers like you know them, but with different finishing options. Going from anodization, stainless steel, brass, Corten steel, my personal favorite. You can actually see the mechanism behind it.
It's a very unique hardware.
You see the hardware and the engineering and the love that is in that detail. And then, well, not my favorite, but tastes differ. Square rectangular one. Also with the junction profiles, this is a granodal anodized finish. Story behind it, this is done by our anodizer, Allotecta, and Allotecta was asked by Bugatti to supply them with an anodization color for the 40 last Bugatti Chirons that were produced. So all the little knobs and buttons in the last 40 Bugatti Chirons are made in this color, this material, and we're allowed to use it. Corten steel on a junction profile, real wood veneer, the LEDs as you've seen it before, and
The big reveal.
glass junction profile.
So this is a vision glass junction profile where you'd regularly see aluminum. It is now clear, adding to your view.
Now some details on NGS, as explained, S4, 5, 6, and 7. The profiles remain the same throughout all the series. What we change is the isolator bar. On the isolator bar, stainless steel sliding rod, and then the rollers in the sash. Only the isolator bar gets bigger, which allows in S4 44 mil, in S5 it's 10 mil wider, 54, a 6, 64, and a 7, 74.
So that's a 3-inch thick sealed unit, which allows a whole range of new glass options.
We have a thicker wall thickness or a stronger wall thickness. This is done to provide more stability in the profiles to be able to go 6 meters high,
Right.
18 square meters. The good thing is that together with Hydro, of whom we buy the extrusions, Hydro as the aluminum manufacturer, partially a new process that they've developed, but a lot of the material that is in here is actually recycled aluminum of first grade quality, but that allows us to reduce our carbon footprint with 30%. In addition, all of these materials are 100% recyclable and they can be sorted apart. Gaskets that seal off. Inside, there's collectors where the water's collected and then through special tubing, through the profile, evacuated to the outside.
So all of the drainage of the system is handled within the sill profile.
44 millimeters, big gap, 44 millimeters, 4 centimeter gap. 4 centimeter gap. Same in the same.
Right.
And that is that ingenuity in that freeway floor. That system, this stays very slim. This case, stepped glass, profile line. Important for you guys also to know, because I imagine Canada, Vancouver, it might get pretty cold in wintertime, pretty tight storms. Also here, the gaskets run up to the profile, which means that even with driving rains, high winds, nothing will come into the profile. We have meanwhile also been able to integrate the locking mechanism in the profile as you know it, but we've made the lever flush. One big difference is that in NGS we use a stainless steel rod for the closing, whereas in MW4 Plus it's still aluminum. With the stainless steel we achieve RC3.
So that's an improvement in your security.
That's a serious improvement in security. Just to show some bit more of that beautiful engineering that our guys do, this is, and take it in your hand please, that's one of the 2 pivot mechanisms that we need in the pivot door. That is made out of solid stainless steel.
Amazing. Look at the detail in there.
Now something else that we've been able to resolve is that, and you guys know that as well, it's what they call the bimetal effect. Aluminum, steel for that matter, expand or extend temperature influence. Glass doesn't. So I have a junction profile. Here would be my glass, inside, the outside, and imagine for argument's sake would be 5 meter high profile. Like lots of your project as well, a nice blackish color, summertime, 45 degrees outside. This thing heats up to 70, 80, maybe even 90 degrees Celsius, which means that this profile expands. The glass does not allow the profile to expand, so what happens? It bends.
It curves.
Which is known in the industry as well. Nobody likes to talk about it, but it is indeed an issue. And our guys came up with a solution that the junction profile on itself, rigid, solid. But the outer shell of the junction profile can move from the inner shell. So when this part extends because of heat or shrinks because of cold, it's absorbed. So it does not get to the glass. You do not get this bending. That has but we're very proud of this. Maybe a little more detail on the profiles itself, because you've been working with us for a long time, and you're used to having these 45-degree cut profiles, with the connectors and then silicone or sealants.
That's right.
We now use 90-degree or straight profiles. Connectors are screwed into the profile, no longer through the profile. That's why our guys came up with these, I don't know what you call them, but the screws go through here and there's a counter in here, slots. These are solid, they're tightened. And on this then also allows that during installation, if there would be a little difference in straightness of your walls, whatever, you can adapt a bit. This is then sealed with a plate and a sealer, and this is watertight.
Okay.
The last thing to show you guys is that we like it clean, we like it neat. To make it clean, to make it beautiful, to make it neat. These come in as well. That prevents dirt from getting into the profiles in all these little cavities you don't have access to. And these are easily cleaned when you open and close your sliders. Maybe a last thing on the drives. This is the smart drive as you know it. In its separate housing next to the Keller profile.
Yes.
So this is the Keller profile. You have the housing for the smart slider, and your slider would be in here. With the on-top sliders we've seen, the entire motor, pulleys, timing belts are in the Keller frame. We need 30 millimeters extra on top for mechanics and a bit of electronics, but all the rest is in the Keller outer frame. So this is now the width. This is almost the width of a double track. This is a double track. With this one, I only have one sliding pane. Here I've got or two sliders or a slider and a fix. So you save in the width during installation.
Much better for blind detailing.
I think that technically both drives are of the same quality, but this solution is better. Because in case something would happen, power out, for instance, something might happen to the timing belt. You're still able to unlock the system so that you can move by hand.
Okay.
And if you here slide your panel, you just slide it somewhere. You have access to your pulleys, timing belt, CPUs.
And it's all accessible from underneath.
It's all accessible from underneath. And here you need it. You have access here because we have a cover.
Right.
The same here. But that means that you would need to take it completely off. And as in most cases, you would have the ceiling finish here.
Yes.
Same would be here. That actually would have meant that you would have pretty much tear apart part of the ceiling.
Okay.
So guys, ideas, feelings, emotions with this, what do you think?
All very good improvements.
All very good.
Thank you. Well, let's go see, because there's a...
there are some beers around here.
The colleagues
busy out
from
here.
Keller at the booth. And Chappie, you know him, our partner out of New York. Stefan. So guys,
Cheers.
It's great having you guys on
Cheers,
the
guys.
bow in Munich. What's your ideas on what you've seen the past couple of days?
I feel like I've done a lot of walking the last couple of days, but everything in this booth is fantastic.
John?
I think I got an opportunity to look at many of the other systems and can strongly say that I really believe this is the best one.
Chappie, you want to add something?
One of the best things was looking at the new system and what it's going to bring possibilities to our client base, and honestly having all of our partners joining us out here in Bow and being able to collaborate together so that we can really have successful projects in the future has really been just tantamount to this whole entire trip.
So what do you think, Stefan?
Well, it's a long ways to go from the US, but this is really the leading trade fair for architecture, materials, and systems. I mean, what we see here, it's worth coming out. Yeah.
Stefan, it's like you put it, you want it bigger, you want it better. That's what Keller is all about. So now instead of walking and talking, some drinking. Guys, thanks for having you here.
Cheers.
Cheers.